Okay, now the development of the germ level intra-embryonic mesoderms. In previous slides, we have discussed the ectoderms and endoderms, and then proliferative cells of ectoderms which migrate into in between the ectoderms and endoderm is converted ultimately into the intra-embryonic mesoderms. But during that, one more things which happens, intraembryonic mesoderms ultimately is the main body part or bulky part of the fetus and embryo is developing from this mesoderms. That's why its distributions and divisions is needed. Subdivisions of this intraembryonic mesoderms, but before its divisions we have to learn the two important structures here present is notochords and neural tubes. So what is neural tubes and what is notochord? So first we will discuss about the notochord. So notochord is the midline structures developing from the primitive state. That means is extend from the primitive state to prochordal plate. And in this notochord, ultimately this notochordal process is develops, then there is canalizations converted into the notochordal canal, then is breakdowns and it's fused with the floor of this embryonic disc. Then again there is proliferations of cells is converted into the notochordal canal. This notochordal canal again becomes solid and converted into the definitive notochord. But details about this is not required for you, but you just remember what is notochord. So it is the midline structures developed between the ectoderms and endoderms, and this notochords is required for the some future developments. So which are the functions? Generally, it's decide the central axis of the bodies. It divides the embryo into the right and left half. It's also gives some stimulations to development of neural tube in future. Whatever the parts of ectoderms overlying this notochord is converted into the neural tube. Plus, it provides the central column during which the vertebral bodies and intervertebral discs will develop. It is known as notochord. And after the fully development, there is no need of this notochord, and it's almost disappears, and its remnants of notochords in human beings. They are particularly nucleus pulposus, and one more is the apical ligament of dense. Nucleus pulposus is present into the intervertebral discs in central parts, and during the development of vertebral column we will be learned. And one more is apical ligament of dense. They are the remnants of notochords. One more structures also develop overlying the notochord. This is thickening of the ectodermal cells on the notochordal process is converted into the neural tubes, and this neural tube is responsible for development of central nervous system. That means central nervous system is developed from the ectoderms. We will be discussed at the time of development of nervous system. So after the formations of notochord as well as the neural tube, then remaining part of intra-embryonic mesoderms on both the sides, it's divided into the three parts of intra-embryonic. From medial to lateral, they are the para-axial mesoderms, intermediate mesoderms, and lateral plate mesoderms. Intraembryonic mesoderms is divides into the three parts: para-axial mesoderms, intermediate mesoderms, and lateral plate mesoderms. Now, similar to the extra embryonic mesoderms, here the one cavity is developed into the lateral plate mesoderms, and both sides of the lateral plate mesoderms during the folding of embryo which fuse with each other, and in this way is converted into a very large body cavities. The three major body cavities like peritoneal cavity, pericardial cavity, and peripleural cavities, they are developing from the intraembryonic cylon. It is known as intraembryonic cylon or intraembryonic cavity. But due to the formations of this intraembryonic cavity, lateral plate mesoderms is divided again like the extraembryonic mesoderms in two layers, outer and inner. Inner is known as plantno-pleuric layer. This plantno-pleuric layer is responsible for formations of the mesoderms of gastrointestinal tract as well as the respiratory tract smooth muscles. And plantno-pleuric or somatopleuric layers makes the body walls of trunk. So these are the derivatives of the lateral plate mesoderms. Now intermediate mesoderms is responsible for formations of urogenital system. That means is responsible for formations of urinary system and part of urinary system like kidney and another structures. Plus reproductive systems like testes, ovaries which are developing from this intermediate mesoderms. Most important structures with presence around the notochords and neural tube on both sides in central regions is known as paraaxial mesoderm. This paraaxial mesoderms is divided into the so many cubical type of mesodermal block. They are known as somites. The somites are very important structures during the development of embryo, and it starts approximately on the 20th day or the almost third week of pregnancy start to appear. Initially the most primitive somites is seen. A number of somites are also important, approximately 3 somites which are seen on the 20th day, and then every day approximately 3 somites add, and at the end of the 30 days, that means around the fifth week of pregnancy, there are 42 to 44 somites are present on both sides of the embryo. So these are the cubical blocks present on both sides of the central axis, which developing from the paraaxial mesoderms is known as somites. So this is somites. Now ultimately they are developed from intraembryonic mesoderms. Now, what happens of these somites on both sides? It's again divided into the three parts from medial to lateral. They are the sclerotom, myotomes, and dermatome. From sclerotom, it develops the bones or skeletons of central regions as well as the ribs and cartilage. From myotomes, it develops the muscles around the central axis and head and neck regions as well as the limb muscles which are developing from the myotome, and overlying the sclerotom means skin is developed from the most superficial layer. So from medial to lateral, it's divided into the three parts. Somites are divided into three parts. They are respectively known as sclerotom, myotome, dermatome. We will revise at the time of development of skeleton also. So these are the derivatives of the all three types of or three divisions of intraembryonic mesoderms. With three types: paraaxial mesoderms, intermediate mesoderms, and lateral plate mesoderms and its derivative. In this way, the embryo is develops or reach up to the three germ layers, and this process is known as gastrulations. The gastrulations means formations of all the three germs layers. This process is take place during the almost the third week of pregnancy. Now we'll discuss about the further development of embryo. Folding of embryo. Initially, there was only two ends, cranial ends and caudal ends, and embryonic disc, and was surrounded by the fluid cavities. Now what happens? is the length of this embryonic disc. This is the amniotic cavity. This one is yolk sacs. In between, this is embryonic disc. Now, as the embryo is enlarges, this disc is also enlarged. And now we know anything is increase in length, then it requires the folding to accommodate the size of uterus. In this way, what happens? The heads start to fold. Here you can see the two types of folding will be take place during the development. This is cranial end and this one is caudal end. Both the end they are now comes near to each other. They are respectively known as head end and tail end, cranial end and caudal end. Both are comes near to each other in such a way that the yolk sacs is also divided in such a way the few part is remain above and remaining part is converted into a stalk like connections. It will be in the future umbilical cord or this part yolk sacs is the future gastrointestinal tract. This is lining epithelium of this part is endodermal. So this is folding of embryo. Now further development of embryonic disc. Here you can see this is the primitive gut. This primitive gut is developed from yolk sac. So this is the cranial part, middle part and distal part. So this primitive gut is now divided into the three parts proximal to the umbilical cord is known as proximal or foregut. Part distal to this is known as middle and hindgut, and in between this part is known as midgut. So it's divided into the foregut, midgut and hindgut due to the folding of head and tail folds. Ultimately now and overlying this amniotic cavity and in between ectoderm and endoderm, this part is mesoderm from which the body will develop. And now from this part also the central nervous system, brain, everything will develop. Here it is the elevations of the head. So gradually head is comes near to this. This is the head fold. This is tail fold. Simultaneously, from horizontal folding, embryo is developing not only cranially and caudally from side. That means now embryo is develops the posterior wall and anterior abdominal wall. Ultimately, all the lateral walls and remaining folds are meet around the umbilicus. In this way, umbilicus is the meeting point of folding of the embryo. This is known as folding